Welcome back to Renovations for Beginners with today's guest, Nick Hurft-Mowick, who's one of my project supervisors and looked after Kat's job, who was on last week's episode.
A very good job, that.
It was.
Yeah.
Nick, just before the break, we got up to the tender stage where we were recapping from, and we just want to make note there to the viewers at home, when you do go out to tender, that you should really go to a minimum of 3 tenders. And Nick, why should they go to more than 3? What's the logic behind that?
The logic to go to 3 is you need a good comparative rate.
Yep.
But if you go to more, then you really are sort of splitting hairs too much.
Yep.
You should be able to find a good price within those 3 builders. You go to more, and you really start getting the people's backs up about.
Yep. Because they talk.
People talk to each other.
Yeah,
they know a job's coming up, and they know who's going to be tendering, etc. So. And
obviously, like plasterboard supplies, for example, there's only a few of them in Brisbane, and and if they start getting 4 sets of drawings for the same job from 4 different, there's a good chance that they might say, well, hang on, how many builders are pricing it? And then word will get around, and then builders will get a bit, as you say. Yeah,
and if you know you're one of 3 builders to going for a job, you'll hit it a bit keener. So you'll give a better price because you're not going to be competing with 20 or so.
Yeah, it's that morale thing,
You're in with a chance.
You got 33% chance, and you're like, oh, well, you go a bit keener, which you do, because when I tender, that's what happens. And if you find out there's a lot of you may not even put in a bid.
Yeah, or you put in a silly bid,
or you may even just because it takes time to tender. Like I know with me, it's probably for a standard residential renovation, it's probably 4 full working days that's involved, and that's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time to provide essentially a free service to someone.
Correct. Yeah. And if it gets exploited, then there's, as you said, we get our backs up.
And you're really off to a poor start to a project. So.
That's it. So just the viewers at home, just take note. I personally would recommend 3 to 5, no more than 5. Otherwise, as Nick said, you start creating a bit of negativity in the industry. And take time to research your builders too. It's good to know that I know the builders that we compete against fairly often. There's one builder who actually lives behind me that we compete against sometimes. And
well, most builders have at least a website now, and even you can take your research further and ask to see previous jobs that they've done, or talk to previous clients. If they're a reputable builder, they'll be very happy to share what they've done, and
I know, I think with my listed projects, even some of the not so good ones there, you can call up the clients, and like I'm open and honest. It's the ones there that don't tell you, who to contact. They're the ones to avoid, really, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
And also give sufficient time to the tenderers to price the job. As I know from my point there, I'd like to get like 3 to 4 weeks, 3 weeks at least. 4 weeks is great, and from there I can plan to send out the packages that I need to get priced, and then slot in 4 days during that 4 weeks to actually measure the project and price it, and then eventually give you, the viewer at home, a price. And 4 weeks, is that?
I think that's reasonable. There's going to be things that pop up, or various details that pop up during the tender process that maybe haven't been addressed in the previous planning. So it's always good to be able to have a back and forth conversation between your tenderers, and maybe even your architect will come in on that as well.
And then you get a competitive price that way. So the issues that might cost money get resolved, and you get more of a competitive price. And make sure you contract the builder using a proper contract. I know a couple of episodes ago we did mention a couple of contracts that didn't take into account retentions, and I believe, you know, having retentions is important, especially when it comes to the end of the project, and you do need to, you know, you as the consumer, the client, need a bit of leverage, because we did mention there a subcontractor on the last episode that ended up walking out on us. That's with Kat's project, and that's because we paid him pretty much to the end, and he just walked. Also, you've got to remember that the building process is governed under a contract, so your actions and your omissions, you know, are regulated under a contract. So if you take time to get information to your builder and it takes too long, the builder has a right under the contract to claim extensions of times with costs. And also with the contract, there's, you know, insurances that need to be resolved. There's who's supplying the insurance. Generally it's the contractor, but sometimes there's provisions for the client to issue insurances. And one important thing is the Payments Act 2004. Nick, you know a bit about the Payments Act?
Well, yeah, everyone loves to get paid, but for the Payments Act, it defines when you get paid, how much you get paid,
and the process.
And the process, and that way it's clear to both parties right from the beginning that this is how it's going to run.
Yeah, it was brought in. Yeah, it was brought in to for, you know, unscrupulous developers there that you know, said they were going to pay the builder, and then come the end of the month didn't pay him at all. And that's what this whole Payments Act is. So just for the viewers at home, if you do get under the contract, if you do get a progress claim, you have X amount of days to respond to that progress claim via progress claim certificate, which outlines what you are going to pay the builder. And then the builder then issues you a tax invoice for when, and then you pay on the tax invoice. And make sure you have regular meetings during the building phase. It's important to...
It's very important. It keeps everyone on the same page.
You remember what Kat's project was like?
Yeah, it was every week.
Yeah.
Every week we had a meeting. It keeps everyone up to date, brings up issues straight away so they don't snowball at the end, and yeah, it makes the whole process a lot smoother.
Yeah, and everything gets resolved.
Yeah.
You know, if it doesn't get resolved at the meeting, it gets resolved prior to next week's meeting. Yeah. And, you know, just as I mentioned before, the time, you know, if you delay giving the builder information, then he can, you know, claim an extension of time with costs. Yeah. I think we covered everything concerning the building phase and contracts.
I think so. Yeah. It's pretty thorough.
We'll take a break.